Hey everyone, Piano Man Chuck here. I am here today comparing two small PAs. This is the Roland KC-110. It's been around for a long time. It's almost a standard for small gigs, small venues. Basically, it is 30 watts when plugged into the AC outlet, but it can also run on batteries, which is really cool, but that drops it down to 20 watts. So, you can see this with the Donner DDA-35 amp. They're very similar in shape and size and even in wattage. The Donner is 35 watts as opposed to 30. Now, the Donner doesn't have battery power, but it has other things that can make up for that, like Bluetooth. We'll get to that in a moment. Now, both of these are billed as keyboard amps, and the Donner is billed as both keyboard and a drum amp. So let me explain what a keyboard amp is. When they say it's a keyboard amp, it means that a keyboard produces so many different sounds, from the deepest of bass and synths to the highest of synths and pads and all that stuff. It has to be able to accommodate that sonic range. Both of these do that very well. Now, the Donner, also being billed as a drum amp, handles transients very well as well. Transients means something like this. It's really quick, it's a really high volume, and it only lasts a second. And you find that in drums. So it needs to be able to handle that. Also needs to be able to handle the sounds of a kick drum and the upper sounds of like a crash or a cymbal or a hi-hat. All right, so comparing these two, the Donner weighs 17.6 pounds and the Roland weighs 16.13 pounds. So they're very, very close. The Donner sports a 8-inch woofer and a 2.5-inch tweeter, while the Roland has two 6.5-inch woofers and two 2-inch tweeters. Now, the reason Roland broke this up into two different, woofers and tweeters is they're claiming this is stereo. And that's fine if you're going to use this in a studio and it's going to be close to you. You got the stereo separation. But if you're going to use this as a PA, forget about stereo. You cannot project stereo into a crowd unless you're in a sweet spot in that crowd. And that sweet spot is only going to be a limited area. Most of the other people in the crowd are not going to hear that. So you've got a left side and a right side. What if somebody's on the right? They're not going to hear the left very well. And the same thing with vice versa. So it's best to use this at a gig or a venue as a mono amp, which you can do very easily. And that way, every sound is using all four speakers. But if you break this down into stereo, now 30 watts when plugged into the wall, you've got only 15 watts per side. And when running on batteries, you've only got 10 watts per side. So that significantly drops the power. So we're going to compare these two as mono amps because that's the way it should be when you're at a gig. Now, with the Roland, they have a thing on the bottom where you can mount this on a pole. It is pole mountable. The Donner is not. The Donner is also in this fixed position that you see it's in, that's aimed slightly up, which is cool when it's on the floor or if it's being used as a wedge for a monitor when you're with a band. The Roland, there's a thing at the bottom that you fold out to make this tilt the way I have, or I can fold that back in and now it's straight. And that's what makes it ideal for pole mounting, the fact that it can be straight. Now, the price, and here's the big thing. As of this video, the Donner is $199.99. The Roland KC-110 was $399.99, exactly twice what the Donner is. But they've now replaced this with the Roland KC-220, which is pretty much identical to this, except for the price. They raised that to $489.99. That's a lot more than twice what the Donner is. So when it comes to controls, I just want to say that the Donner has 3 EQ controls: low, mid, and high, whereas the Roland only has 2: low and high. Now, as for inputs, the Donner has channel 1 and channel 2 inputs, and they have an auxiliary input. That's it. Oh, also it has a Bluetooth input, which is really cool. As for the Roland, channel 1, 2, and 3. Channel 1, switchable between mic and line. Channel 2 and 3, mono inputs, or you can use it as stereo inputs. Okay, which is pretty cool. But I would, as I said, I would recommend using all mono for any kind of gig or venue. If you're at home in your home studio and you're just a few feet from this, yes, this makes an excellent monitor in stereo if you want to use it that way. And the Roland also has an aux input, which is an 1/8 inch TRS or 2 RCA phono plugs. And the first channel on each of these is switchable between mic and line inputs. Everything else is line inputs on both. As for outputs, the Donner has a 1/4 inch DI output on the back, so you can hook that up to front of house when you're in a live gig or venue. It also has an 1/8 inch TRS headphone jack, and that's really cool over there. The Roland has 2 1/4 inch left and right outputs, but if you're going to use this as a mono, you just use the left, okay? And that is your main output. That can be used also as a DI output to go to front of house or whatever. Also has headphone outs as well, and that's a 1/4 inch. Now, as for part of the controls, the Donner has gain controls for channel 1, channel 2, and aux inputs. The Roland has gain controls for channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, plus master volume, and it also has EQ for low and high, whereas the Donner has EQ for low, mid, and high, as I mentioned earlier. As for effects, the Donner doesn't have any effects, but the Roland has the reverb and chorus. They have one knob that controls both, and it's really cool. It works very well. The Donner is basically what you plug into it, that's what you get. The Roland, you can add reverb or chorus to it. And as far as the reverb and chorus, they also have a foot switch input where you can hook up a foot switch to turn those effects on or off. And of course, since Donner doesn't offer any effects, you don't have a foot switch available for that. Now, the Donner does offer Bluetooth connectivity. How cool is that? It's really cool because it goes above and beyond that. The Roland doesn't offer Bluetooth, but what's really cool about the Donner is they've got this multifunction knob there for Bluetooth. Not only it enables you to pair it with your phone or your tablet or whatever, but once it's paired, that multifunction knob can take whatever you're playing. Let's say you're playing a YouTube music list or a Pandora music list or Amazon or whatever it is that you're listening to. You can take that Bluetooth multifunction control, you can skip to the next track or the previous track, or you can up or lower the volume with it, or you can pause it. How cool is that? And it works. I tried it, just about everything I tried it with, it works. It's so amazing. I love that feature. And now, as far as power, both the Roland and the Donner come with AC adapters. You plug it into the wall outlets and you are set to go. But the Roland also offers AA battery power. And when you do that, the power drops from 30 watts here to 20 watts, as I mentioned earlier. Now, as far as controls, you see right here, the Roland channel 1, which is a mic or line input, channel 2 and channel 3, which can be used as mono inputs or stereo inputs. You can see right here, you can use them as both. And as far as channel 1, you can see over here, you can hook up a TS cable, which is an instrument cable, or you can hook up an XLR cable, which is usually used by dynamic mics. Then there's the effects that I mentioned. You can have it affecting from reverb to chorus. And then you have the low and high EQ, the volume, the headphone jack, the power jack, and down here are your inputs, channel 1, quarter inch, or TRS. Channel 2, mono inputs or stereo inputs. Aux in, 1/8 inch TRS stereo input or right and left RCA. Line out, left for mono or left-right for stereo. And the foot switch, like I mentioned before, to turn on or off the chorus and reverb effects, and the power in and out. As for the Donner front panel, which everything is on the front here, you got the input line 1, and you then right next to that, you got a switch to switch that between line 1 or mic, which is really cool. Input 2 is a line input. Then the next section here, you've got input 1 gain, that volume control for gain, input 2 gain, and then a 3-section EQ, EQ for low, mid, and high. Next to that, you've got an 1/8 inch TRS aux in. Then you got a gain control for that aux in. Next to that is an 1/8 inch TRS headphone jack. Next to that is that Bluetooth multifunction knob that I just described. And on the back panel, you've got a 1/4 inch DI jack. All right, so enough about what the physical difference is and all that kind of stuff. Let's hear what they sound like. Now, I'm going to start out with the Roland. I am using a Nord Piano 5, which is known for some of the best piano sounds in the industry. And I also have a Beat Buddy here, which is known for some of the best drums for the industry. So let's go ahead and check this out. We'll start off with the Roland, and I'm going to do some piano. Let's try the same thing with the Donner. All right, let's go back to the Roland and try something that everybody knows. And let's try the same thing again with the Donner. Okay, so basically, let's try the whole keyboard range with the Roland. And the same thing with the Donner. Okay, now, again, I have 2 instruments here. The Nord, which we just heard, and the Beat Buddy. Each one is plugged into the first 2 inputs on each one of these. Okay, so let's try it with the Beat Buddy and let's see what a drum sounds like. And we're going to start with the Roland. Let's try the same thing with the Donner. Okay, did you hear a difference? So, again, the Donner is billed as both a keyboard amp and a drum amp. The Roland is basically a keyboard amp, but it can handle drums too. Either one of these can handle bass too, but I think the Donner can handle bass a little bit better. With that 8-inch woofer here, that can move a lot more air than 2 6.5-inch woofers. So, if you want power, I believe the Donner is probably going to be your best bet. If you want portability with battery power, go with the Roland. But at the price difference, that just gets to me. $199.99 is a steal for something like this. Whereas with the Roland, again, the older KC-110, which is this, was $399, and its replacement, which is pretty much identical to this, the KC-220, is $489. Now, again, it depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for more power, go with the Donner. If you absolutely have to have portability and the ability to play on the street as a busking musician, and you have instruments that don't require AC power, like a battery operated keyboard or something like that, go with the Roland. Either way, you can't lose, but it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for Bluetooth capability, this is going to be your bet because Roland does not cover that. So there's a lot of differences here. So again, I mean, hearing is believing. So let's try it again, starting with the Roland. And the Donner. And let's try maybe the drums. Start with the Roland. And let's try it again with the Donner. Okay, well, I think from this limited demo, you should be able to tell which one you would love to go with. And again, it's going to depend on whether you want battery operation so you can use this anywhere, or if you want more power and Bluetooth capability. You really can't go wrong with either, but this is going to save you a lot of money if this is going to be your choice. So I hope this has helped you out. Now, there's going to be some links in the description. Also, check the links in the description if you want to buy one of these as well. Hope this has helped you out. Piano Man Chuck. Peace out. Thanks for watching.